Welcome to Conversations, Congregation Emmanuel. Program Director Jason Plotkin here. Every Wednesday at noon, we get together with someone in the community. It could be a pastor, it could be, who knows, it could be a member of the Jewish Federation, or we've talked to people in sports as well. And this week we are excited to have the President and CEO of Interfaith Ministries of Greater Houston, Martin Cominsky, who's also a congregant of our congregation. Martin, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. So glad to be with you, Jason.
Well, we're happy to have you. And first off, one of the things that I've really gotten from people who listen to our show is they really weren't familiar with organizations that we've brought on. So Martin, I really want to give you a chance to explain Interfaith Ministries from a very high angle, an overview of the organization, if you don't mind.
Thanks, sure. Well, Interfaith Ministries began as Houston Metropolitan Ministries, and it has a long connection to Congregation Emmanuel, of which I'm very proud of. Rabbi Roy Walter, of course, was one of the early chairs of our organization. And as we went from a Judeo-Christian group to an organization that was going to represent all the faiths of the community, we were able to have Rabbi Walter's leadership. And of course, he brought in a wonderful past congregant, Larry Sapnowitz, to design our logo and to create our message, the strength of shared beliefs. And that's what we're really all about, is bringing people together of different faiths and traditions and talking about what we share in common and how we can find common ground to dialogue, to collaborate, and to serve the community. So we have deep roots with Emmanuel, which I'm very proud of. And Rabbi Walter was especially enthusiastic about the Meals on Wheels program. And for so many years, at every Yom Kippur, an envelope was passed out for the Emmanuel Hunger Fund, which supports Meals on Wheels. And we thank all the congregants for their support over the years of that work. If I could tell you about the 4 areas of our work.
Yeah, sure.
Just
Go
so
ahead.
You have an understanding.
Yeah,
thanks.
Please do.
We, our largest program is Meals on Wheels, both for Greater Houston and for Galveston County. So we're serving from Bolivar Island all the way to Montgomery County. It's a long distance, and for that reason, we use more paid drivers than most Meals on Wheels. You may know that the ERJCC also runs a program in the Meyerland and Southwest neighborhood, but our program, as a sister to theirs, encompasses the whole city. We also run a Refugee Services program, which I hope to tell you more about later, but we're bringing in legal refugees with the State Department to Houston, and Houston is the largest home for new refugees in the nation. And we also run Volunteer Houston, which engages volunteers for nonprofit organizations throughout the community, not just Interfaith Ministries. We're a Points of Light affiliate. And finally, our Interfaith Relations program, which is kind of the heart and foundation for our work, bringing the faith community together.
Well, I appreciate that. And let's talk about that interfaith relations that you're talking about. You have eyes on a lot of different organizations in the community that are faith-based. What are you seeing during the current pandemic, besides obviously everyone's gone virtual or some hybrid of virtual? What are you seeing that those agencies are doing very well and successfully to engage their communities?
Well, I think this is a very difficult time for many, particularly those that are not dues-based, because their revenues often come from a collection plate. And so one way that it's changed is certainly the business of managing a congregation. And for those who do that, they are seeking different ways to earn the support of their members. Spiritually, I see people doing amazing things like you do, Jason, for our own congregation, but people that are using the audio-video medium to really make a compelling and spiritual service, adding music, sometimes sharing the platform with other pastors or musicians to see musicians come together over video from their homes. It creates an intimacy that is different from an in-person large sanctuary service. And while I very much value those times to see our fellow members, I find something special about the intimacy of a Zoom call as well.
I think we're all having to pivot one way or another. That's for sure.
Right.
You brought up Meals on Wheels earlier. I think we see Meals on Wheels. What did this program really look like prior to COVID, and particularly what are things that you've had to shift as it relates to the pandemic? I think I saw something that you're delivering more meals up front instead of more regularly throughout the week, et cetera. Can you please dive into that for us?
That's right. Well, Meals on Wheels is meant to be a weekday program where a visitor comes every day and brings a hot meal to a senior and greets them and checks on them. Part of the program is about the meal, and it's just as important about the meals and more and what we do during that social visit. So for COVID purposes, we've decided it's not safe to officially greet the person, bring them a meal and hand it to them and have that kind of close-up conversation. So what we've done is go to a frozen meal, and we deliver all 5 to 7 of those meals on one day per week. But we call them every day and we check in on them. In some cases, we'll be adding Alexa devices soon, so we can talk to people by video as well and check on them and push through new programming and reminders about taking their medicine, their security, their health. So we're getting very creative with the help of electronic formats, but the basic issue is to make sure they have the nourishment of the body through frozen meals and the nourishment of their soul through daily visits and check-ins. And for those that didn't have a microwave, we're very fortunate that the Ecclesia Church came through and said, we'll provide a microwave for any senior that doesn't have one.
Wow. And I really am always curious, what do we think is going to stay on after, we get to whatever the new normal is? Are there certain things you brought up, having the technology to check in and do video calls? Do you think some of these aspects that you've brought into play will stay more long-term, possibly going forward, the new look of Meals on Wheels?
I do think they will stay long-term. I think we'll look for a balance in the way, because we certainly would like to see our clients more than once a week. But I think we'll find a healthy balance between a less frequent delivery, but a more frequent and more complete interaction by phone, internet, or Alexa, or those kinds of devices. What this allows us to do is, if we're not there every day to one individual, during the days we're not there for that individual, we can be there for others. So we have the potential to enlarge our capacity to serve more people, but to try to find the balance to make sure that it's a positive social activity as well as a meal.
Wow, that's really fascinating. Let's move along to one of your other pillars, which is refugees. Before we dive into the present time, how did IMGH get involved in being with the refugee program? What was the impetus behind this endeavor?
Well, I think in the strength of shared beliefs, we all understand that caring for the elderly and welcoming the stranger are important tenets of almost all faiths. And so early on, the board, before I was the president and CEO, made a decision that those two areas were going to be service areas for Interfaith Ministries. And it's a long and complicated way that we bring immigrants here, but basically refugees come through one of 9 national service organizations, HIAS being one that was started in the Jewish community, of course, during the World Wars to get Jewish people safely to America, but other faiths have their own. And so Interfaith Ministries works with the Episcopalian Migration Ministries, and we are able, through their help and through representatives that they have in war-torn countries, to identify people in need and to, with the sanction of the U.S. State Department, bring them safely to the United States. All of our refugees come by airplane, and an interesting thing is that they have to reimburse the government for their airplane fare. So those that may think this is all a free ride, it's not a free ride, but more importantly, it's making a difference for people in perilous conditions where they're at risk of their own life if they don't get out of there. They come to Houston, we welcome them at the airport, we take them to a fresh, clean apartment with new furniture and with housewares and with a refrigerator full of groceries, and they begin their life in Houston. And for 6 months, Interfaith Ministries is very closely allied with them, providing continuing services to get their kids enrolled in school, to get them enrolled in healthcare programs, to help them find a job. And 97% of our employees, of our refugees, end up employed within 6 months, and they can become self-sufficient, pay their own rent, and move forward.
Wow, that really is fascinating how you provide the support and basically give them, to use Houston terminology since we're a space city, a launching pad to succeed and be able to do what they need to get off to the right foot.
Exactly, and I'll remind people that congregations like ours can play a very important role, and we're joined by many others of different faiths who essentially adopt a family and help them get their start. You know, refugees come with no understanding of our public transportation, of our retail situation, of how to shop, and these are all new things. One of the most valuable things that we do is teach people to swim. There are women in many of the countries that we bring refugees from have not had a chance to swim because it was considered an immodest effort in their countries. And so IM has a women's empowerment group, and what we offer is a bikini for those that need modest dress, and we teach them to swim. And the confidence that something like that brings to a new immigrant woman in our country is just an amazing thing to see, and also a great safety issue for them.
Oh, no question. Swimming is so invaluable, as we know, as parents. And continuing on regarding the refugees, Rabbi Hayon a few weeks ago was in the Houston Chronicle and partnered with some other faith-based leaders on an editorial about giving part or all of your stimulus check, if you're able, to refugees for the IMGH Refugee Assistance Fund. Can you tell us about that fund? What are the emergent needs that this fund is going to be directed to?
Sure. Well, we're very grateful to Rabbi Hayon, who is the chair of the Refugee Services Committee at Interfaith Ministries and serves on the board of IM. So we're proud of our very close relationship. What Rabbi Hayon and Reverend Lisa Hunt, who started the idea, but Rabbi Hayon was eager to join it, was to ask congregants that may have received a stimulus check because their situation allowed them to get it, but also because they have other sources of income, revenue, and assets that would allow them to be generous and pass their stimulus check along to others in need. And so it was the Pass It Along campaign, and we raised nearly $50,000 from generous congregants around the community, from our synagogue and others, from St. Stephen's Episcopal Church and others, as a chance to say we want to help refugees. What happens in this situation of COVID is that many of our workers start their careers in entry-level jobs, in service at hotels and restaurants, and with the lockdown, people lost those jobs and lost the revenue with it. And so their normal build to be able to pay for all their expenses in 6 months has been thwarted by COVID. So what this fund allows is for us to provide a refugee emergency assistance fund so that we can make sure that everyone with special needs gets the support to pay their rent, does not get evicted, has food on their table. And the Congregants Just Pass It On campaign has been also supplemented by many other generous donors and allows us to provide that direct support to refugees. Thank you for doing it.
Oh, no, we're happy to highlight that, and of course, all the other good work IMGH is doing. And one of the things that is really fascinating during the pandemic, and your organization got a lot of attention for locally and to some degrees nationally, because I think the message got on, is your Tapestry Gala in late April. I'm a logistics guy. Everybody knows that. You and I have actually collaborated before. But what led to some of the decisions to take this event virtual, bring food and meals to the homes of attendees, and really make this event happen in a very unique fashion that you probably wouldn't have seen if we weren't in this current state? Tell us a little about that, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, I think we realized early on that the expectations were going to be that we socially, or more appropriately, physically distance ourselves from one another, and that even though we had one of the largest ballrooms in town booked at the Hilton Americas, we realized it wasn't going to be possible to do what needed to be done by our date of our gala. And so we decided, let's try. We were fresh with the Zoom technology, and I saw the potential that we could do as much as we do in person online. And so we moved in that direction. I think what was clear and what was obvious is that we're Meals on Wheels. And if we can deliver Meals on Wheels to 5,000 seniors every day, or right now once a week, that we certainly could get meals to our patrons for our gala. And while our Meals on Wheels food is delicious, we decided to step it up a little bit with a gourmet option. And we're very grateful to IMGH Bank, that has a restaurant in their building that was not being used when we went into the stay-at-home rules. And so they said to us, do you think we could prepare some meals for free for your seniors? Well, the senior meal process is actually very involved, because we have to get certain nutritional elements in it, has to be a certain number of calories. And so we were a little concerned about how we could get a medically tailored meal out of this wonderful Yvonne's Cafe at IMGH Bank. But I turned to the president, Steve Stevens, and said, hey, the best way you could help us is to maybe provide some meals for our patrons so that their generosity can go to the direct meal service for our seniors. And within moments, he was like, we're going to do it. We're fortunate to have support from Cisco, who provided the proteins for the meal, delicious filet mignons and snappers and vegetarian dishes, and they prepared it, and it was delivered by our Meals on Wheels deliverers and the staff of IM. And so the goal was just to create the same kind of hospitality. We all know that food is love, and the way that we could really bring our love to our patrons and to all those who support us was to deliver a nice meal. Came with a bottle of wine, good desserts, hand sanitizer, an oven mitt, so after you heated your meal for 20 minutes in the oven, you wouldn't burn yourself, and a great program where we raised more than $500,000 for the work of Interfaith Ministries.
And what's great about having everyone with their same meal is you created a sense of community and engagement. Everyone was eating the same thing, watching the same thing, even though they were in multiple dozens and dozens and dozens, or hundreds and hundreds of households. So you really kept with the mission of the organization and had interfaith community come together doing the same thing.
Exactly. And we did it in the same way that we try to serve people daily, to all the seniors that are 60 and over, that are homebound and really need someone to prepare for them, because most of them can't get to the grocery store, nor can they stand in front of a stove or oven to cook. So it was a great win-win-win for everyone. We put together essentially the same program. The entertainers that were going to entertain at the gala were from Unity Church, and they were able to use their own sanctuary and studio to record their music We interspersed that in the program. The mayor and the county judge spoke, and it was just a lovely evening. And I'm glad that many Emmanuel participants were part of it as well.
Yep, and as someone who's in the program and engagement world, I've definitely shared the article and the insights that I've picked up from afar with other colleagues, and we might be duplicating your efforts in some regards within the congregation. Stay tuned.
Yes, consider that. And we're thinking that maybe this is an ongoing deal. People really liked it, and maybe the parking, the tuxedos and all that stuff isn't necessary to have a good time and to help a good cause.
There you go. And I would be remiss if we did not conclude with talking about volunteerism and the way people can get involved. Obviously, right now, there's people who are not comfortable going out and being around other people outside their household. But what are ways, you mentioned your volunteer pillar, but what are ways people can get involved, whether it be from their households or in person? Because I think you're going to see this for a while, that people are slowly coming out, but not exactly comfortable. What are ways people can get involved?
Yes, and so we have to be concerned with the safety of seniors as well. And so we're not actually using volunteer drivers now. We're doing it all with our paid staff that's going through some health checks and things. But Volunteer Houston is the opportunity for all Houstonians to choose opportunities with all the nonprofits in the community. And there are still many needs. Some of them are physical needs, and we have a whole program that will tell you about how to be safe when you're volunteering in the COVID environment. But we also have some great virtual opportunities and some things that you can do with your family. VolunteerHouston.org is our website, and I encourage you to go there to sign up, and it will send you each week some volunteer opportunities that you might be interested in. Some of the things are as simple as, making masks, making toys for dogs and cats for our Animals program, where we serve about 1,400 dogs and cats of seniors to make sure that they get a healthy meal and the senior doesn't give their meal to their pets. So please take a look online, and as soon as it's safe, we will welcome many people to help us deliver meals and share the love with all the seniors in our community.
So for those who are watching, particularly on Facebook, we will share these links in the header so that you can click on to Volunteer Houston, also click on the Interfaith Ministries website and really see the full scope of what Martin has generously shared with us this morning. Is there anything I missed, Martin, or did we cover all the bases? Did we check them all off?
Jason, I think you checked them off. It's great to talk with you, and thanks to all our congregants and those who listen to this program for giving me an opportunity to tell you more about the strength of shared beliefs and Interfaith Ministries for Greater Houston.
Well, Martin, thank you for coming on. Of course, thank you to David Tanner, who's operating things behind the scenes. And for those who are watching, check the links that we're going to post with the video. But again, every Wednesday at 12 p.m., we're coming on our Facebook page, our Polar Chapel streaming, talking with someone in the community who's dealing with the pandemic through their role. Maybe it's someone in sports, as we had last week. We're really trying to inform and engage our community in things they may not be aware of. So I hope you'll join us again, 12 p.m. Wednesdays on the Facebook page of the congregation, also on the Polar Chapel streaming page. Thank you again, Martin, for coming on. Thanks to David Tanner for his work behind the scenes. And I apologize if my cat Sammy made an appearance or two. That just happens when you're working at home. I wish you all well, and we will see you next Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.